The biting New England wind, a relentless tormentor even in late autumn, whistled through the secluded alleyway, a mournful counterpoint to the distant urban hum. Sergeant Arthur Art Vance, his breath misting in the frigid air, shivered beneath his thin, tattered blanket. He was in his late 40s, his once broad shoulders now slightly stooped, his proud Marine Corps uniform, though meticulously cleaned, visibly worn and frayed. To the few hurried commuters who occasionally glanced his way, he was just another face in the city's forgotten landscape. A homeless veteran, a statistic of misfortune. Yet within Art's weary frame beat the heart of a proud, once-decorated Marine, haunted by war and burdened by severe, undiagnosed PTSD. His eyes, though distant and clouded with unshed sorrow, still held a flicker of the unwavering duty and honor that had defined his life. His mornings began before the first hint of dawn, a ritual born of military discipline that transcended his current circumstances. He would rise from his makeshift bed of cardboard, the cold seeping into his bones, and meticulously polish his worn combat boots until they gleamed, a silent act of defiance against the grime of the streets. As the first rays of sunlight touched the city, he would stand rigidly straight, his gaze fixed on the American flag being raised from a nearby corporate building, his hand instinctively going to a phantom salute. This unwavering adherence to a soldier's code, even in destitution, spoke volumes about the man beneath the tattered uniform. His isolation was profound. He rarely spoke, his requests for spare change a quiet, almost imperceptible murmur, often lost in the cacophony of the city. He deliberately avoided eye contact, shrinking into himself, a silent observer of a world that seemed determined to overlook him. During long, empty hours, his fingers would subconsciously trace the faded, intricate military tattoos on his arm, symbols of camaraderie, of battles fought, of a past life that felt light years away. They were silent memories, unseen scars that ran deeper than the superficial ones. One particularly blustery afternoon, as the city hustled around him with indifferent purpose, Art observed a small, seemingly insignificant incident. A street vendor, distracted by a sudden gust of wind, lost his grip on his entire cart of fresh produce. Oranges, apples, and tomatoes scattered across the busy sidewalk, rolling into the path of uncaring pedestrians. People sidestepped, muttered irritably, but no one stopped. Despite his own gnawing hunger, despite the risk of drawing unwanted attention, Art didn't hesitate. He immediately stepped in, his movements surprisingly swift and efficient. Ignoring the stares and the minor chaos, he moved with ingrained discipline, systematically helping the flustered vendor collect his scattered goods, carefully placing the bruised fruit into separate piles. He then quietly slipped away before the grateful vendor, overwhelmed by relief, could offer any reward or even a word of thanks. It was a small act, easily overlooked, but it spoke volumes about his enduring sense of duty and his quiet helpfulness, a testament to the man he still was, beneath the grime and the pain. Art wore a small, tarnished silver dog tag around his neck, tucked discreetly beneath his shirt. It wasn't his own. It was etched with an unfamiliar name, Augustus Vance, and an unusual archaic symbol, a forgotten family crest, intricate and almost regal in its design, hinting at a distant, influential lineage he knew nothing about. Sometimes, when a sleek, expensive model of a luxury car glided past him, he would flinch, a subtle wince of pain, hinting at a past connection to wealth or a specific, traumatic memory. He would occasionally mutter cryptic phrases about unjust orders or stolen honors in his sleep, fragmented echoes of a past military trial, a dark injustice that haunted him. Tucked deep within the lining of his tattered jacket, he diligently folded and refolded a faded newspaper clipping. It detailed a decades-old, high-profile military trial involving a general accused of corruption, the specifics of which Art silently observed with an intensity that belied his apparent detachment. This dog tag, this hidden clipping, these fragmented memories, All were subtle threads of a forgotten powerful legacy, a web of truth he was soon to be pulled into, irrevocably altering his quiet world. The gnawing hunger and the glare of indifference. The city, a cold, indifferent giant, tightened its grip on Art Vance as a brutal winter descended. The wind, once merely biting, now ripped through his tattered clothes, freezing him to the bone. Survival on the streets became a daily, agonizing struggle. His undiagnosed PTSD, a relentless storm within his mind, worsened with the isolation and the harsh conditions. Crippling panic attacks would seize him without warning, sending him spiraling into vivid flashbacks of combat, leaving him gasping for air in the unforgiving alleyway. His meager attempts to find work were met with averted gazes, his tattered uniform and haunted eyes a red flag to potential employers. Shelter doors remained closed, his perceived instability a convenient excuse for rejection. The constant, gnawing ache of profound hunger hollowed him out, leaving him weak from malnutrition, his body barely able to withstand the brutal cold. One frigid morning, as he huddled near a soup kitchen, seeking the scant warmth offered by its distant vents, he overheard a conversation that pricked through his despair. Two men, their voices hushed but urgent, spoke of a new, experimental PTSD therapy program. "The Valor Clinic," one whispered, "at the military hospital outside the city. They say it's revolutionary, unbelievable success rates, but the cost and the waiting list, it's impossible." It was a fleeting whisper of hope, a desperate lifeline for a mind tormented by unseen scars, a chance for healing he hadn't dared to dream of. It was his last, desperate hope for healing, a chance to reclaim a semblance of his former self. The antagonist of his immediate plight, unknowingly intertwined with his forgotten past, was Mrs. Evelyn Sterling. She was a prominent, wealthy socialite, known throughout the city for her lavish charity events, particularly those dedicated to veterans' causes. These events, however, were meticulously orchestrated public relations stunts, designed primarily for tax write-offs and to bolster her public image, which she cultivated with ruthless precision. She was driven by ego, a relentless need for social climbing, and a profound disdain for genuine poverty or the messy reality of human suffering. She treated the homeless and veterans with a superficial pity, masking an underlying contempt, viewing them as mere props for her charitable facade. Unbeknownst to her, she was a distant, forgotten relative of Art, and unwittingly, deeply involved in a past injustice against him related to a complex legal case over family assets, a secret kept buried for decades. One frigid afternoon, Mrs. Sterling, draped in an expensive fur coat, swept through the city's upscale shopping district with her equally superficial friends, their laughter tinkling like icicles. They approached the very corner where Art, weakened by hunger, quietly held a sign. "Veteran, hungry, anything helps." Mrs. Sterling spotted him, and a look of cold disdain crossed her features. She saw not a man suffering, but a disruption to her carefully curated world. She made a show of loudly dismissing him, her voice cutting through the urban din. "Honestly," she drawled to her friends, loud enough for Art and other passers-by to hear, "these freeloading vagrants, they simply should get a job instead of begging. What a lack of ambition!" She actively discouraged her friends from giving him money, waving her gloved hand dismissively. "Don't encourage them, they just waste it." She reveled in his discomfort, seeing his quiet dignity as weakness, missing the spark of defiance that still flickered deep in his haunted eyes. She had no idea how profoundly her words and her disdain would soon come back to haunt her. The public humiliation, coupled with his gnawing hunger and the fading hope of reaching the Valor Clinic, began to shatter Art's quiet stoicism. He felt utterly desperate, vulnerable, and alone, like a ghost in his own life. He clung to the image of the Valor Clinic, a desperate beacon in the encroaching darkness. He knew he had to make one last, desperate attempt to beg, to push past his pride, hoping for enough money, just enough, for a warm meal and a bus ticket to the clinic. He chose a bustling cafe, its windows radiating warmth and the scent of roasted coffee, a cruel taunt to his empty stomach. He stood there, a tattered sentinel on the pavement, at his lowest point, driven only by the desperate, flickering hope of healing and a chance to reclaim a life that had been so unjustly stolen. A child's unseen vision. The upscale cafe, the Gilded Bean, hummed with the murmur of polite conversation and the clatter of porcelain, its patrons engrossed in their morning rituals, oblivious to the world beyond their steaming lattes. Outside, on the cold pavement, Art stood quietly, his tattered sign held low, almost invisible to the indifferent stream of passers-by. His stomach gnawed at him, a dull, persistent ache, but his eyes were fixed on the warm glow emanating from the cafe's windows, a painful reminder of the comfort he no longer knew. Inside, sipping her chai latte, Mrs. Evelyn Sterling sat with her equally superficial friends, their conversation a tinkling symphony of social gossip and charity event planning. She subtly observed Art through the panoramic window, a faint sneer touching her lips. He was precisely where she wanted him to be, a public display of failure that subtly contrasted with her own carefully cultivated image of generosity. She made a show of discussing her lavish veterans' charity work, subtly emphasizing her supposed benevolence while casting disdainful glances towards Art, reveling in his perceived lack of self-sufficiency. At a nearby table, a young girl with bright, curious eyes, Lily, 7 years old, watched Art. She was the daughter of Mrs. Eleanor Vance, a kind, empathetic single mother who ran the nearby children's art therapy program, the helper in this unfolding drama. Lily possessed an exceptional perceptiveness, an almost intuitive sense of others' hidden pain, seeing beyond surface appearances. She had noticed Art earlier, not his tattered clothes, but the quiet dignity in his posture, the profound sadness in his distant gaze. Lily tugged gently on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, look, the man outside. He looks sad." Mrs. Vance, noticing Lily's gaze, gently tried to redirect her. "It's cold out there, sweetie. Let's finish our breakfast." She worried about exposing Lily to the harsh realities of the streets and about drawing Mrs. Sterling's critical eye. But Lily, with a child's unwavering resolve, was not to be deterred. She had been working on a drawing all morning, a vibrant, abstract piece filled with swirling colors and bold strokes. She saw something in Art that resonated deeply within her, a quiet strength beneath the weariness. Ignoring her mother's gentle redirection and the murmurs from Mrs. Sterling's table, Lily slid off her seat. Clutching her colorful abstract drawing, she walked directly to the cafe door. She pushed open the heavy glass door, letting in a gust of cold air, and approached Art. Her small hand, warm and soft, extended the drawing towards him. Her face was serious, her eyes wide with genuine, unconditional kindness, a stark contrast to the disdain he usually received. "Here," she said, her voice soft but clear. "This is for you. It's a happy place." Art, accustomed to indifference, to averted gazes, to the clink of coins dropped without eye contact, was utterly stunned. He looked down at the child, then at the drawing. It was a vibrant landscape, a kaleidoscope of bright yellows and deep blues, with a bright, warm sun dominating the sky. And in the foreground, a figure stood tall, his back to a fading stormy horizon, his head held high, walking towards the light. It was a drawing that, with uncanny accuracy, captured Art's hidden strength, his profound longing for peace, and the unseen battles he fought within. It saw him not as a beggar, but as a man of resilience, a figure of enduring hope. A profound emotion, long suppressed, stirred within him, a jolt of pure, unconditional hope. He clutched the drawing like a sacred relic, its vibrant colors a beacon in his gray world. Mrs. Sterling, observing from inside, rolled her eyes, a dismissive sigh escaping her lips. "Honestly," she murmured to her friends, "some children are just so naive, and so terribly distracting." She saw Lily's act as nothing more than childish naivete, yet another distraction from her own conversation, and certainly nothing of significance. She believed it was just a child trying to annoy her, perhaps even seeking attention. She was completely oblivious to the profound symbolic meaning of the drawing and its impending direct connection to her own family's hidden dark legacy, a truth that was about to be devastatingly unveiled. The canvas of a life. The story of the veteran and the child's drawing became an unexpected phenomenon. Lily's mother, Mrs. Eleanor Vance, profoundly moved by her daughter's instinctive act of kindness, and sensing the unique, almost symbolic nature of the drawing, discreetly photographed it. She shared the story and the photo with a local journalist she trusted, Sarah Miller, a compassionate reporter known for highlighting human interest stories. The narrative, a small child's innocent empathy breaking through urban indifference, resonated deeply. The story went viral locally, then nationally, capturing hearts and sparking a quiet outpouring of sympathy for homeless veterans, but still not fully revealing Art's haunted past or his true identity. Art, deeply moved by Lily's gift, clutched the drawing like a sacred talisman. Its vibrant colors and the profound symbolism of the figure walking towards the light became a source of quiet strength amidst his despair. He heard snippets of the news story on discarded radios, saw his own silhouette on newspaper headlines. The public attention, though uncomfortable, brought a flicker of warmth to his cold, solitary world. He knew he desperately needed to reach the Valor Clinic, its promise of healing for his tormented mind a constant, agonizing whisper of hope. But the exorbitant cost, even with the trickle of donations from the viral story, remained an insurmountable mountain. Meanwhile, Mrs. Evelyn Sterling, her face a mask of barely suppressed fury, seethed. The viral news story, celebrating her vagrant and the child's naive kindness, was a direct affront to her carefully cultivated public image and her lavish Veterans Causes charity events. She saw it as an undermining of her own meticulously crafted benevolence, a threat to her carefully controlled narrative. She tried to subtly discredit the story, spreading insidious rumors through her social network about Art's supposed criminal past, or questioning his military record, attempting to regain control of the narrative. She was particularly irate about the potential attention on Mrs. Eleanor Vance and her children's art therapy program, a program Mrs. Sterling's own foundation had been subtly trying to cut funding from, seeing it as too messy and unquantifiable for her polished philanthropic portfolio. The stage for the ultimate confrontation was set. The local art gallery, seizing on the viral sensation, announced an emergency charity gala and auction for homeless veterans support. Lily's drawing, now famous, was chosen as the centerpiece, its simple beauty elevated to a symbol of hope. Mrs. Sterling, forced by overwhelming public pressure and the need to maintain her facade of generosity, reluctantly agreed to attend and be a prominent sponsor. She planned to make a grand public display of her generosity, subtly dismissing the drawing as sentimental but ultimately unsophisticated. She intended to buy it for a modest sum, then quietly dispose of it, burying the inconvenient truth it represented. The time limit for Art's desperate hope was palpable. The Valor Clinic's experimental PTSD therapy program had only one last slot remaining, and it was rapidly closing. Art needed the funds from the auction before the end of the gala, or his last chance at healing would vanish. He felt the familiar weight of anxiety, the cold grip of fear. But Lily's drawing, clutched in his hand, gave him a quiet resolve. An unexpected presence arrived at the gala, a silent arbiter of truth. Julian Sterling, the renowned art connoisseur and philanthropist from New Orleans, from a previous story, now subtly linked by a shared philanthropic focus on art and justice, was invited to appraise Lily's drawing. He was known for his uncanny ability to discern hidden artistic value and historical significance. He was a silent, objective observer, unaware of the deep, personal family connections, but keenly aware of the unique artistic frequencies that sometimes resonated from overlooked pieces. He moved through the glittering crowd, his presence commanding a quiet respect, drawn by the subtle hum he sensed from Lily's painting. He was about to reveal a truth far greater than mere art, a truth that would expose a hidden past and dismantle a powerful lie. The masterpiece of a life. The art gallery gala buzzed with an electric tension. Lily's drawing, now mounted on an easel under a soft spotlight, was the focal point of the auction. Mrs. Evelyn Sterling, poised and confident, her eyes gleaming with avarice, raised her paddle with a delicate flourish. 100,000, she announced, her voice dripping with false generosity, intending to secure the painting and then, subtly, make it disappear from public view. She believed she had control, that this sentimental piece would soon be hers to dispose of. Just as the auctioneer prepared to bring down his gavel, signifying Mrs. Sterling's winning bid, a commanding voice cut through the murmurs. Julian Sterling, the renowned art connoisseur, stepped forward, his presence instantly silencing the room. His gaze swept over the crowd, then settled on Lily's drawing, a flicker of profound recognition in his eyes. He didn't just appraise its artistic merit. He focused on its symbolic composition, its unique, almost prophetic elements. "Ladies and gentlemen," Julian began, his voice clear and resonant, "this is more than just a child's drawing. It is a work of extraordinary, intuitive power." He pointed to a subtle, almost invisible etching woven into the vibrant colors of the drawing, a hidden detail Lily had unconsciously included, mirroring the unique symbol on art's dog tag. "This symbol," Julian announced, his voice gaining a chilling precision, "is the ancient, forgotten crest of the Vance family, a powerful, wealthy lineage known for its hidden philanthropic legacy. A legacy tragically severed decades ago." The room rippled with gasps. Mrs. Sterling froze, her carefully cultivated composure beginning to crack. "More than 30 years ago," Julian continued, his gaze now fixed on Mrs. Sterling, "the true heir to the Vance fortune, a decorated Marine named Arthur Vance, was unjustly disinherited and pushed into obscurity by a complex legal fraud orchestrated by a corrupt lawyer. The family assets, vast and ethically built, were siphoned off, distributed among distant, undeserving beneficiaries." His voice hardened. "The begging veteran whose plight has captured the nation's heart, the man this child so compassionately drew, is none other than Sergeant Arthur Vance himself. His current destitution is a direct result of that profound injustice." Julian then presented irrefutable evidence. Meticulously cross-referenced historical records, notarized legal documents he had quietly uncovered over years of investigation, all detailing the fraudulent acquisition of the Vance family assets. He had been tipped off by the Blind Artists Guild letters, recognizing the hidden family crest within them, a silent key that led him to art. Mrs. Evelyn Sterling, hearing the name Arthur Vance, the explicit details of the family crest, and the chilling account of the old fraud, gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, her face drained of all color, going from a haughty flush to an ashen white. She recognized the crest. She knew the details of the past fraud, for she was a distant beneficiary of that very stolen wealth, and her own father had been implicitly involved in the decades-long cover-up. Her carefully constructed facade shattered, revealing not just her profound guilt, but her direct complicity in art's long suffering. Her public image, built on a foundation of lies, was utterly destroyed, exposed as a hypocrite of the highest order. The room erupted into pandemonium. Gasps turned to shouts of outrage, then a roar of furious vindication. Activists who had championed Art's cause cheered wildly. Journalists scrambled, their cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward, capturing Mrs. Sterling's spectacular downfall. Money, pledged in a torrent of furious generosity, poured in for Art, far exceeding the cost of his PTSD treatment, and a massive fund was instantly created for other veterans, all sparked by Lily's innocent drawing. Art, who had been standing quietly at the back of the room, overwhelmed by the sudden brutal unveiling of his past and the profound shift in his present, looked at Lily, then at her mother, Eleanor, a silent symphony of gratitude and burgeoning hope in his haunted eyes. Justice, long delayed, had finally arrived, delivered by the pure heart of a child and the discerning eye of an art connoisseur. A life reclaimed. A debt of kindness. The art gallery, once a stage for Mrs. Sterling's hollow charity, became the epicenter of her spectacular downfall. The public outcry against her was immediate and merciless, fueled by the viral news and the raw, undeniable truth of Julian Sterling's revelations. Investigations into her family's past financial dealings, long buried, were swiftly reopened, uncovering a web of deceit and fraudulent acquisition of the Vance family assets. Stripped of her social standing and facing impending legal charges, Mrs. Sterling lost everything she had so cruelly sought to gain, her carefully constructed public image crumbling into ignominy. For Art, the days that followed were a blur of profound relief and unexpected hope. He was immediately admitted to the Valor Clinic, the renowned military hospital offering the experimental PTSD therapy he so desperately needed. His healing journey began, slow and arduous, but filled with genuine progress. The specialized therapy, combined with the removal of the immense financial and emotional burden he had carried, allowed the deep, unseen scars of his past to finally begin to mend. He recovered significantly, both physically and mentally, his haunted eyes slowly regaining a flicker of their former light. Art was not only healed, but fully vindicated. The military, spurred by the public outcry and Julian Sterling's quiet but firm influence, launched an internal review of the decades-old injustice. The unjust orders he had muttered about in his sleep, the stolen honors, all were meticulously investigated. He received an official apology and full restitution, his decorated service finally recognized and honored. He became a national symbol of veterans' dignity and resilience, his story resonating deeply with a public eager for tales of redemption. He dedicated himself to advocating for homeless and traumatized veterans, his voice, once unheard, now amplified by his remarkable journey. One quiet afternoon, after a therapy session at the Valor Clinic, Art sat with Eleanor Vance, Lily's mother, in the clinic's peaceful garden. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine. Art spoke slowly, his voice raspy but clear, revealing the fragments of his hidden past, the tragic military trial, the unjust disinheritance, the years on the streets, haunted by his PTSD. He spoke of the guilt, the isolation, the profound sense of being forgotten. Eleanor listened, her eyes filled with understanding and compassion. He expressed his profound gratitude for Lily's innocent act of kindness, for the drawing that had unlocked his fate. "Your daughter," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "She saw me when no one else did. She gave me hope when I had none left. She saved me." Eleanor, deeply moved, gently squeezed his hand. "Lily sees with her heart, Art. And sometimes, that's the clearest vision of all." She then revealed her own past struggles, the financial hardships she had faced as a single mother, the moments of despair that had mirrored his own. Julian Sterling, who had quietly facilitated Art's admission to the clinic and overseen the restitution process, also met with Art. He explained his long-standing mission to uncover stolen legacies, his family's historical connection to the Vance name, and his profound respect for Art's quiet courage. Justice delayed is not justice denied, Sergeant Vance, Julian said, his voice grave. Your honor is restored. Art understood Julian's quiet dedication, the man's profound commitment to righting past wrongs. Their shared belief in justice, once an abstract concept, was now a tangible bond forged in the crucible of truth. The city, once indifferent, now glowed with a new warmth, a tangible shift in its collective consciousness. Arthur Art Vance, no longer a shadow on the streets, was a beacon of hope and resilience. In his early 50s, healthy, articulate, and profoundly respected, he had become a leading national advocate for veterans' rights. His voice, once a quiet murmur, now resonated from podiums across the country, sharing his story with raw honesty, inspiring countless individuals and shaping national policy. He lived a comfortable, dignified life, free from the crushing weight of his past, his eyes clear and vibrant, reflecting a hard-won peace. His greatest joy, however, was in the flourishing life of Lily, now a bright, compassionate 12-year-old. Her artistic talent, nurtured by her mother, had blossomed, her creations infused with a deeper understanding of human connection and empathy. She often collaborated with Art on projects for his foundation, her youthful energy and vivid imagination a perfect complement to his quiet wisdom. Art's commitment to paying it forward was unwavering. He established the Lily's Canvas Foundation, a national nonprofit that rapidly became a pillar of support for veterans struggling with PTSD. The foundation funded therapeutic art programs, ensuring that veterans, like himself, could find healing and expression through creative outlets. He worked closely with Lily and her mother, Eleanor, expanding the foundation's reach, ensuring that its compassionate approach touched as many lives as possible. Using the restitution from his family's recovered assets, he also personally spearheaded the development of dignified, supportive housing communities for homeless veterans, ensuring they received not just shelter, but holistic care, mental health support, and opportunities for reintegration into society. These communities, vibrant and thriving, stood as living testaments to his profound belief in second chances. The story ends on a bright, peaceful afternoon. Art stood in a large, sunlit art studio within one of the new veterans' community centers he had helped build. The walls were adorned with vibrant, emotional artworks created by veterans of all ages, some with visible scars, others with hidden ones. He held Lily's original drawing, the simple, colorful piece that had changed everything, now framed and displayed prominently. Veterans, young and old, sat at easels, their faces focused, finding solace and expression in the tactile act of creation. Art looked at the drawing, the bright sun, the figure walking towards the light, then at the vibrant scene around him, a profound sense of peace and purpose filling him. The sun's golden rays filtered through the studio window, illuminating the drawing's hopeful imagery, a powerful symbol of enduring hope, resilience, and the transformative power of a single act of kindness. If this story stirred your heart, if it reminds you that courage can alter destinies and that light always finds a path even in the deepest darkness, please leave a comment. Share this story with those who need inspiration. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss our upcoming stories.